Hi, my name is Adilene and I will be talking about the video Ethnic Studies Struggles Through Oral History. And from the video, I learned three things. It involved a group of four individuals, and they're talking about their experiences through ethnic studies and what they've learned. And one thing that I learned from Norma Gonzalez was a doctrine that was discovered thousands of years ago, known as the doctrine of discovery, is one that supports discrimination, and she states how a lot of the discrimination we now face and deal with is something that can be connected all the way back to the doctrine of discovery. And she gives the example of how in her class her students did great because she understood them and she knew where they come from, and that was in her third grade class. But now it's their fourth graders, their other teachers don't understand them, and because of this judge them and discriminate them because of what society says in a way. And it can be traced back to this doctrine of discovery where we don't know a person necessarily, but because it's something that has been almost embedded into our society, like that's just how it is, that we discriminate other people because of that. And in those other classrooms, the students were doing poorly because they were deemed as being thieves or criminals. And so that's something that now I can see as being true, but before I didn't know that it could be traced to this doctrine of discovery, as well as what Sean Arce says, how Chicano studies, ethnic studies isn't just a class that you just go and learn and then you go home and then you're done with it, you don't think about it. But Chicano studies is not just a class, but it's a way of life and a movement in its own, because it can spark a lot of thinking and consciousness, being aware of what happens in the Chicano community. And so now that after he stated that, I saw it as being true, that a lot of us might just think that we just go to that class and what we learn is just, it's gonna stay there, that it won't really affect us in a way in the long term. But once you are introduced to these things, you're not gonna be able to forget them, because you might, in your everyday life, you might see something and remember something you learned in the class and connect those two, because it's something that ethnic studies teaches us about everything, that why we're treated the way we are, what led to us being treated this way. So you can connect it, and it's not something that you're just going to learn and then forget about like in other classes. It's something that's going to stay with you, whether you want it to stay with you or not. As well as Jonathan Gomez, a lot of the times we are the ones who get blamed for everything. And this is something that Paul Ortiz states too, that how when he was living in San Leandro, anything bad that happened was blamed on either the blacks or the Mexicans. And I mean, that's true, because this has been proven through history. It's been proven in our society. It's being proven right now with the whole Black Lives Matter and police brutality. When anything bad happens, either the blacks or the Mexicans are blamed. And it's true, but what I never thought about is the fact that we don't create these problems. We are blamed for creating these problems. We're blamed and said that anything bad that happens to us, anything bad that happens to our families, it's on us. But the reality is it's not. It's a problem that society has created, and this is something that Jonathan Gomez and both Paul Ortiz, in a way, this is something that they both express in their speeches and their talk in this video, that it's something that society has created, yet it's something they created and then they can't solve. So they just put the blame on all of us, on the rest of us, and say only thing bad that happens, it's something that you did, that's your fault, that you brought on yourself. But really it's a societal problem, not a citizen's problem. Like, it's not just our fault, it's something that society as a whole has created, and it's something that we're not going to be able to combat on our own. And then going back to Norma Gonzalez, this is why she states that it's so important to not to start teaching kids about Chicano studies and ethnic studies in elementary school, not in middle school and not in high school. And this is something that I also never thought about, that the earlier that you teach them, the profounder the effect is going to have. But now after she said that, I see how it is true. Because I mean, I wasn't taught ethnic studies, Chicano studies in high school. If I did learn anything about that, it was about Cesar Chavez or something basic like that. Not basic, but I mean something that's not controversial, because we're not going to be taught about the Trinidad Guadalupe Hidalgo because of how we were treated. They only teach us, they kind of sugarcoat the things that we're taught. So that if I learned something about my Mexican history, that would be the only thing, but it was never really stressing how we were treated. It was more of, yes, Sister Chavez was this great person and stuff like that. So anything that we were taught was kind of sugar-coated and basic, but now I see, like, in high school we're not taught anything, and so even that is, something that's wrong. But now I see how even if we had been taught stuff in high school, and really wouldn't have made that much of a difference, because we kind of would probably be taught it like last minute. And so after she said that, I kind of like agreed with her that the earlier that kids are taught it, the better, because they'll be more exposed to it in life, and it'll help them understand who they are and find themselves as a person. Because I mean, when you're being told by society that there's something wrong with you, that all the problems that you face are your fault and that we're worth nothing, then you're gonna think that you really are worth nothing. So I think that it's kind of, you can't stress it enough that we shouldn't start teaching kids about Chicano studies or ethnic studies in high school, or wait for them to take classes in college. That it should be something that they are taught right now as soon as possible. And that's also what Paul Ortiz states, which is something, he gives a fact that I didn't know, how when slavery was abolished in the United States, that African Americans were just like, oh, well, slavery is done and over with here, let's move on with our lives and be happy with that. A lot of them created organizations and campaigns and stuff to try and get slavery abolished in other places. And so that, I feel like Chicano studies would kind of help in the same sense, where we know the struggles we've been through, but then we can connect those struggles to other people and of other ethnicities of other places, and connect with that, and see the struggles that we have been through together, and maybe it can call for a society where we're more accepting of each other.